Hello, lovelies. It's Brandy again at college at Purdue. Having a lovely day today. Finally get a little bit of time in between classes to do one of these. So, I figured I'd sit down with some barbecue chicken melt with the ranch on it. It's really delicious. I'll show you in a bit. Got myself a Coke, because, I'm just that American. Oh, I already took a bite, but oh my god, this is delicious. Let me show you. So fresh. Well, you can't see because my thumb's in the way. Good job, Brandon. But oh my god, this thing is glorious. Okay, let me sit you guys down. But anyway, guys, I'll save my eating for later. Don't want to eat on camera. I actually have a couple topics this time around, which, helped because last time I was just sort of absent-mindedly chatting, which is okay, but I decided I might have a little direction this time around. So, recently at Trigrams, we're doing a lot of work, and, well, it sort of made me want to make my own little opinion on something. You see, I haven't seen very many Machinima. Well, I have. I've seen a lot, but I don't watch every single one I've been in, or I don't watch every single one that's been linked to me, and not too many have been, broadcasted to me to the point where I want to watch them. So, I haven't watched too many. So, anything I say after this may just be due to the fact that I haven't looked hard enough. But okay, I'll start off with something, might as well say, opinionated. During my time with Machinima and stuff, making films, voice acting in films and everything else, I actually ended up getting a preference for them. You hear how Mikey and I are always about plot over story. We'd prefer to have somebody be like, oh my god, this is a mystery, over cool explosions, So, my preference is a little bit in between, really. I like to have a good plot. I want to have a reason for being someplace. But then I also like it when things sort of enchant me. I'm a really big fantasy freak, so you're going to see me, writing things for, Skyrim fanfiction or something. I don't know. That was a plane. But okay. My preference is something more magical. That's why I am loving Scale and Claw so much. It's crazy. Still, what I want to see in these films, though, is I have to have a little bit of a formula. I need interesting characters. I need interesting plot. And I need an interesting world. Now, to explain, interesting characters are not people who are able to make jokes or who are able to say the right thing at the right time in an epic manner. If you want to have a good character, you have to have a character that's able to be good, but has flaws for you to work around. For example, this guy, he's a hero, he's been around the world a couple times, and he's really weather-worn. That sort of deal. Hello. Where was I? Character, plot. Okay, so back to the character. An interesting character has to have his own flaws that can be worked around, like I said. Anybody ever watch Road to El Dorado? Miguel and Tulio are both sort of the sidekick types. They're not going to be the main heroes of a story, and they're both flawed in the fact that, they're not geniuses, but they're pretty cool in their own way. The hero of the story can't be totally unreliable. but he has to have something that curbs him. Otherwise, he's gonna end up, a Master Chief, and nobody likes Master Chiefs unless they're into non-stop action, which I'm not. I'll just go on to interesting plot then. A successful and interesting plot is a story that will make you want to watch it. Something that will interest you, and something that hopefully you will enjoy throughout. Of course, there are going to be times where you don't enjoy a story all the way, but you could probably get around that if you just stick around long enough and be like, oh, I'm glad I watched that. That also ties into an interesting world. If you want an interesting world, you have to have it look the way you would imagine it would be. If you're going to have a big dystopian means like a world in the future where everything has gone to hell, check out the book Feed if you want to know what I'm talking about. In a big dystopian society, I would expect worlds to be like, hey, everybody lives in 9 feet by 9 foot apartments now. There are plastic tables that you can throw away now. Everything's disposable. Nobody cares about washing anything anymore. There are roaches everywhere. There's toxic waste leaking out of sewers. Then I need to see a cluttered environment. I need to see a lot of vehicles everywhere. I need to see little people, just not little people as in small people. I mean like a little amount of people actually walking around and doing things normal humans would do. And you need to be able to recreate that in a machinima, which is kind of hard. But, I mean, a machinima director can adapt, right? Though, speaking of adapting, you have to be original, too. You can't just be like, hey, I'm going to take this, and I'm going to work my way around it all the time. Sometimes you have to be like, hey, this doesn't work, so I'm going to do this instead. And if nobody else has done it, then alright. Take, for example, a random show. What do I know of? Trying to think of a good one. Hold on. Gotta take a drink. Okay, I'll just go back to the book Feed that I was talking about then. In terms of originality, I really don't think I've ever seen a dystopian future like that. You see, in Feed, it's gotten to a point in society where everybody, at a young age, certain people are, they have a chip installed in the back of their head, into their brain. And what that chip does is it more or less lets them access the internet wherever they want. Wherever, whenever. And it's gotten to the point where their bodily functions actually have to stick into that. If you take the chip out, their body will actually go haywire and they'll die. It's a really big plot point. Have you ever seen any other things else like that? I mean, big sci-fi future gone wrong happens a lot, but I haven't read many books or seen very many shows where that sort of thing actually happens. But I guess I'll go back to my preferences of what I want to see. Since I'm a fantasy dude, I kind of want to see somebody go on an adventure. Call it childish if you want, but I do want a little bit of fantasy to go with my sci-fi to put the fiction into science fiction. I need some sort of magic, if you will. Some of you are probably already being like, huh? Magic? Well, if you think that's too childish, then obviously you don't have the imagination you need then. That sort of bias is probably what keeps a lot of people from actually making films that they would enjoy. As a matter of fact, if I was able to make a film that I totally liked, and didn't care what other people thought, and just made my video, I would probably be pretty happy with it, and as a result, my film would probably be higher quality than if I had just sat there and was like, no, I can't do this while, you're saying bad things about fantasy. No. And so, I would make my film, and I'd be happy with it, because I wouldn't care if it's too childish sounding. I'm just gonna do it because I want to, and that's the whole point of this hobby, because machinima is a hobby. Unfortunately, the common viewer probably doesn't view machinima films as just a hobby. If you want to get an example, take, for example, fanboys of certain people. There are people on the internet who will get their jimmies rustled over the thought that, hey, you don't like their directors, or you say something bad about somebody else's director. So what? That person doesn't care about you. And if they did, they would probably be talking to you a lot. No joke. The only difference between them and you is the fact that they're making films and you're sucking up to them. So, when a common viewer, I remember being a common viewer, I viewed machinima films as, like, in two categories. I was like, oh hey, this is Halo. Since, I saw Halo, I didn't look at Super Smash Bros. Or Sims 3 machinima, because I didn't find it interesting. But Halo machinima kind of got me interested. The common viewer will view a machinima due to its action, or its comedic value. No joke, you might say, oh, I'm in it for the plot. Bullshit. You're not in it for the plot. If you were in it for the plot, you wouldn't be watching Livestock. That's his nickname, by the way. Livestock. If you're in it for the plot, then you will actually pick at the story. Not out of, a bias, like, this person was mean to me online, I'm gonna dislike their videos like a little girl. No. Somebody would do constructive criticism of a film that they enjoyed the plot of. Like, hey, why is this person jetpacking when everybody else could have just walked up there? Or even better, there's always that stupid part where it's like, yeah, why did everybody have to get on a boat to go all the way across the cavern just to do it when they could have just had that one dude jump across and do it himself? Inconsistencies in a story like that, I would like it if people pointed that out so you wouldn't make so many stupid mistakes. That just goes on to my last topic. How should people view films? People shouldn't just look at them for just the comedic value or the action. We've been saying forever now, films are a story. It's not an explosion, and it's not a punchline. You need to be able to look at a story and treat it as a story, and look at it. I don't want to summarize any plot points, because I could probably mess it up somehow, but still, if you're going to look at a film, then you need to use your brain. If you're not going to use your brain, you're just a common viewer. And a common viewer is going to be like, oh, explosions, funny. That's all they care about. But if you're an uncommon viewer, and you can actually use that head of yours, then you'll find out that some films aren't as perfect as, you thought they were when you were sucking up to their directors. You'll also find that you'll actually enjoy it more if you actually understand it. Because, you don't have to understand anything at all to listen to a funny joke. If you see a guy fly across the room and slam into the wall, that's funny. You don't have to understand anything. You just get your short laugh, and that's all. If you see somebody jump onto a mongoose, get exploded into the air, the mongoose does a flip, they jump off of the mongoose, land on a falcon, stick the falcon pilot, jump off, and the thing explodes behind them as they fall down. That's cool, and you don't have to understand anything. Both of those have you be a zombie. You don't need to think. You could just be like, oh, it's so cool, oh, it's so funny. But what about, say, a deductive scene, where a man is trying to find out what happened, where you have to actually think. It's like, hey, there's a gun on the ground, there's traces of bullets all over the walls, I'm guessing there's a gunshot going off a couple times, and, well, the neighbors said somebody screamed. I have a feeling it was probably a murder. Right? Personally, it's just a preference, because I don't like being a mindless zombie just to enjoy my stuff. If I want to enjoy something, I have to be able to understand it and think about it. I guess that's what separates me from a common viewer. Well, that's actually all the topics I have for today, before, I eat my delicious barbecue chicken melt. This is actually pretty easy in comparison to the very first one, so, yeah, that's great. I suppose there's just, one other topic I can think of, and that would be, what do you call it? Give me a sec. Well, yeah, I could go back to the fantasy aspect. The film I want to create is going to be filmed in a fantasy sense. Simply because I want it to be. I like fantasy. I don't care what the hell you say. Fantasy is awesome. That's my paper. And, if you don't like it, don't watch it. I'm not going to appeal to what you want simply because you want me to. If you give me a good reason, such as, hey, this is a bad idea, then, okay, I'll listen to you. I'm not saying I'll change myself for you, but I'll listen to you, I'll talk to you, and I might better myself from your constructive criticism. But, if you're just gonna say don't do fantasy because you can't do fantasy, then you're really, well, you could use a little work. You could go to college, like me. No, I'm not gonna use that card, but still. I want to do fantasy. That's going to be my next film. I'll just leave that it for now. Adios, lovelies.